Nora Caldwell stood frozen on the rain-slicked sidewalk outside Lumiere, Seattle's most exclusive restaurant, feeling like she was about to commit a crime. Her worn black flats were hidden beneath the hem of her only nice dress, a simple navy blue number she'd bought 3 years ago for a wedding. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows she could see crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget, and people who belonged in a world she only saw on television. Her phone buzzed again. Bethany's 8th text in 10 minutes. Please Nora. I'm literally dying here. Food poisoning is no joke. Just go in, have one drink, make an excuse and leave. His name is Connor Phillips. Investment banker. Probably boring. You'll be out in 30 minutes max. Nora's stomach twisted. She had exactly $42 in her checking account until Friday, and that had to cover bus fare and Dante's lunch money for the week. If this Connor person expected her to split the bill at a place where appetizers probably started at $30, she was absolutely doomed. But Bethany had covered her shift last month when Dante had that asthma attack. Bethany had brought groceries when Nora's car broke down and she couldn't make it to the store. Bethany was the kind of friend who showed up, always, no questions asked. So now it was Nora's turn. She pushed through the heavy glass door, immediately hit by the scent of expensive perfume and fresh flowers. The hostess, a tall white woman with perfectly straight blonde hair, looked at Nora with barely concealed surprise. Reservation? She asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer would be no. I'm meeting someone. Connor Phillips. Nora's voice came out smaller than she intended. The hostess's expression shifted slightly. Of course. Right this way. They weaved through the dining room, past tables where people spoke in hushed tones over wine that probably cost more than Nora's monthly rent. She felt every eye on her, judging, questioning what someone like her was doing in a place like this. The hostess stopped at a corner booth, partially hidden by a decorative screen. Your table. He should be here any moment. Nora slid into the booth, her hands shaking slightly as she placed them on the table. The menu had no prices. That was never a good sign. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Nora was starting to think maybe Connor had taken one look at her through the window and decided to bail when a man appeared beside her table. But this wasn't Connor Phillips, investment banker. This was someone else entirely. He was tall, probably 6 feet, with dark brown hair that fell slightly over his forehead. He wore a charcoal gray suit that fit him perfectly, the kind of tailoring that whispered money without shouting it. His blue eyes were tired but kind, and when he smiled, it didn't quite reach those eyes. Bethany? He asked, extending his hand. I'm Elias. Elias Montgomery. Nora's mind went blank. Elias. Not Connor. Bethany had said Connor Phillips. Have you ever stepped into someone else's life for just one moment, only to realize you might never want to step back out? What would you do if one lie led to the most honest connection you'd ever felt? Drop a comment below and subscribe to see how far Nora's willing to go to keep this impossible evening alive. Yes, Nora heard herself say, shaking his hand. I'm Bethany. Nice to meet you. What was she doing? This was wrong on so many levels. But something in his expression, a loneliness she recognized because she felt it every single day, made her hesitate. One drink. Bethany's words echoed in her head. 30 minutes and she could leave. Elias sat down across from her, and immediately she noticed how uncomfortable he looked, like he was wearing someone else's skin. I have to be honest, he said, fidgeting with his napkin. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. Nora's heart jumped. What do you mean? My business partner, James, was supposed to meet you. This whole thing was set up by his wife and your friend? Colleague? I'm not even sure. But James got called into an emergency meeting in San Francisco, and He trailed off, looking almost embarrassed. I volunteered to come instead. The knot in Nora's stomach loosened slightly. So you're not Connor Phillips? Elias blinked. Connor Phillips? No. Who's Connor Phillips? And just like that, the absurdity of the situation hit them both. Nora felt a laugh bubble up, completely inappropriate given the circumstances, but she couldn't stop it. I'm not Bethany, she admitted, the words tumbling out. Bethany is my best friend. She was supposed to meet Connor Phillips tonight, but she got food poisoning, and she begged me to come in her place because apparently standing someone up at Lumiere is some kind of social crime, and I owed her about 1 million favors, so here I am, pretending to be someone I'm not, at a restaurant where I absolutely do not belong. She waited for him to get angry, to call her out for being a fraud, to stand up and leave. Instead, Elias started laughing too, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. So we're both imposters, he said, shaking his head. We're at the wrong table, meeting the wrong people, pretending to be people we're not. Pretty much, Nora agreed, feeling her cheeks warm. I should probably go. This is ridiculous. Wait. Elias reached across the table, not quite touching her hand but close enough that she felt the warmth of his skin. What if we just stayed? Not as Bethany and Connor or whoever I was supposed to be. Just as us. Two people who ended up at the same table by accident. Nora looked at him carefully. There was something genuine in his expression, a hopefulness that made her chest ache. I can't afford this place, she said bluntly. I'm a nurse. I work at Seattle General. I have exactly $42 until Friday, and that's not even close to covering an appetizer here. I can afford it, Elias said simply. And before you get all proud and offended, I'm not trying to show off or make you feel bad. I'm just stating a fact. I'd like to have dinner with you. The real you. Not Bethany. And I'd like to pay for it because I asked, and that's what I do when I invite someone to dinner. Nora studied his face, looking for any sign of pity or condescension. She found none. Okay, she said slowly. But let's start over. For real this time. Elias's smile widened. For real. I'm Nora. Nora Caldwell. Elias Montgomery. And I'm actually terrible at first dates, so if this goes badly at least we'll both know it's authentic. A waiter appeared, impeccably dressed, holding a wine list the size of a small book. Good evening. May I start you with something to drink? Nora glanced at Elias, who nodded encouragingly. I'll have whatever you recommend, she said, deciding to just embrace the strangeness of the evening. The lady will have the 2015 Chateauneuf du Pape, Elias said smoothly. Then catching Nora's raised eyebrow, he grinned. Trust me. You'll like it. As the waiter departed, Nora leaned forward. So, Elias Montgomery, what do you do when you're not showing up to dates that aren't really your dates? I'm an investor. Tech companies mostly. I help fund startups, guide them through growth phases, occasionally watch them crash and burn spectacularly. He said it with such casual honesty that Nora found herself relaxing. What about you? How long have you been a nurse? 5 years. I work in the ER, mostly night shifts. Nora traced a pattern on the tablecloth with her finger. It's hard, but it matters. Every shift, I get to help people on what's probably the worst day of their lives. Sometimes I can't do much, but being there, being present, that counts for something. That's incredible, Elias said, and he sounded like he meant it. I sit in boardrooms and move money around. You actually save lives. Don't sell yourself short. Jobs create communities. Communities need resources. You're part of that chain. Nora surprised herself with the defense. She barely knew this man. The wine arrived, and the waiter poured 2 glasses with ceremonial precision. Nora took a sip, and despite knowing nothing about wine, she had to admit it was delicious, smooth and complex in ways she didn't have words for. Good? Elias asked. Really good, Nora admitted. Though I'm usually more of a $2 wine from the corner store kind of girl. Nothing wrong with that. I've had $1,000 bottles that tasted like regret and bad decisions. Nora laughed genuinely this time. Okay, so now we're here being real. Tell me something true. Something you don't usually tell people on first dates. Elias considered this, swirling his wine. I'm lonely, he said finally. I have money, success, all the things people think should make you happy. But most days I eat dinner alone in my apartment, working until I'm too tired to feel anything. I came tonight because James said I needed to get out more, meet people. But meeting people when you're me, it's complicated. Everyone wants something. The honesty was startling. Nora had expected smooth talk, practiced charm. Instead she got raw truth. I understand lonely, she said softly. Different reasons, same feeling. I work so much, I barely have time for a life. My younger brother, Dante, he's 12 and has asthma. Bad asthma. I'm raising him because our parents died in a car accident 4 years ago. Between work and taking care of him and trying to keep our heads above water financially, there's not much room for anything else. Elias's expression shifted, filling with something that looked like understanding. That's a lot for one person. It's what family does. You show up. You do what needs doing. Not all families work that way, Elias said quietly. Mine certainly doesn't. Before Nora could respond, the waiter returned to take their order. Elias ordered for both of them, checking with Nora about preferences first, choosing dishes that sounded both exotic and comforting. As the evening progressed, the conversation flowed with surprising ease. They talked about everything and nothing. Elias described his childhood in Boston, the pressure of a family legacy he never wanted, The relief he felt moving across the country to build something separate from his father's shadow. Nora shared stories about Dante, his obsession with space and rockets, his dream of becoming an astronaut despite lungs that sometimes betrayed him. "He sounds special," Elias said as their main courses arrived, perfectly plated arrangements that looked almost too beautiful to eat. "He is. He's the best person I know." Nora cut into her fish, which melted like butter. "Sometimes I worry I'm not enough. That he needs more than I can give him. From what you've told me, he needs exactly what you're giving him. Well, stability. Someone who shows up every single day no matter how hard it gets. That's not nothing, Nora. That's everything." The conviction in his voice made Nora's throat tighten. When was the last time someone had told her she was doing enough? That she was enough? "Thank you," she whispered. They talked through dinner, through dessert, through coffee. The restaurant began to empty around them, but neither seemed to notice. At one point, Elias told a story about a disastrous pitch meeting that had Nora laughing so hard she snorted, which made him laugh, which made her laugh harder. It was past 11 when they finally stepped out onto the street. The rain had stopped, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming. "I should get home," Nora said reluctantly. "Early shift tomorrow and Dante will wonder where I've been." "Let me get you a car," Elias offered. "I can take the bus." "Nora." He said her name gently. "Let me get you a car. Please." Something in his tone made her nod. Within minutes, a sleek black sedan pulled up, and the driver got out to open the door for her. Before she climbed in, Elias caught her hand. "Can I see you again? For real this time. Not as imposters or stand-ins. Just us." Nora looked at their joined hands, his pale fingers wrapped around her darker ones, and felt something shift in her chest, like a door opening to a room she'd kept locked for years. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that. Tomorrow? Dinner again? Somewhere less fancy. Somewhere we can just talk. Tomorrow's good." He squeezed her hand once before letting go. As the car pulled away, Nora turned to look back. Elias stood on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching her leave with an expression she couldn't quite name. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for tonight. For being real. For being you. Sleep well, Nora Caldwell." She saved the number under Elias, and leaned her head against the car window, a smile playing at her lips despite the impossibility of everything that had just happened. Nora's alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning, dragging her from dreams filled with crystal chandeliers and blue eyes. For a moment she lay in bed, wondering if last night had actually happened or if she'd imagined the entire thing. Then she saw the text message still glowing on her phone screen and knew it was real. She dragged herself out of bed and into the shower, letting the hot water wake her up. Her shift started at 7, which meant she had just enough time to make Dante breakfast and catch the bus. In the kitchen, she found her brother already awake, sitting at their small table with his astronomy textbook open in front of him. "You're up early," Nora said, pulling eggs from the refrigerator. "Couldn't sleep. Too excited about the planetarium trip next week." Dante looked up, his brown eyes bright behind his glasses. "Where were you last night? You got home really late." "Had to help Bethany with something," Nora said, which wasn't exactly a lie. "Bethany who's always helping us? About time you helped her back." Dante grinned. "See? I listened to your lectures about gratitude and showing up for people." Nora ruffled his hair as she passed. "You're too smart for your own good. That's what they tell me at school." He closed his textbook. "Are we okay? Money-wise? I heard you on the phone with the hospital billing department last week." Nora's chest tightened. Dante was 12. He shouldn't have to worry about money. "We're fine," she said firmly. "I've got it handled." "You always say that. Because it's always true." She slid scrambled eggs onto his plate, added toast. You've got a quiz today, right? Science. Easy. It's just basic chemistry. We did hydrogen bonds last week." Dante dug into his breakfast. "Hey, are you happy?" The question caught Nora off guard. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one. You work all the time and when you're not working you're worrying about money or my medical stuff. I just wondered if you're ever happy." Nora sat down across from him, reaching out to take his hand. "I'm happy when you ace your science quizzes. I'm happy when you remember to use your inhaler before gym class. I'm happy right now, having breakfast with my favorite person in the world." "I'm your only person in the world," Dante pointed out. "Not true. I have Bethany. Bethany doesn't count. She's like, honorary family." He squeezed her hand. "I just want you to have fun sometimes. Maybe meet someone. Go on dates." Nora thought about Elias, about dinner tonight, and felt warmth spread through her chest. Maybe I will. Sometime. Good. You deserve good things, Nora. Remember that. At 12 years old, Dante sounded like someone 3 times his age. Nora supposed that's what happened when you lost your parents and had to grow up fast. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. She got Dante off to school, caught her bus, and made it to Seattle General with 5 minutes to spare. The ER was already chaotic, 3 ambulances pulling in before she'd even clocked in. Welcome to Friday, her colleague Janet said, tying back her gray hair. We've got 2 car accidents, 1 possible stroke, and a kid who swallowed a toy car. Choose your adventure. Nora chose the stroke patient, an elderly man named Harold who kept trying to convince everyone he was fine despite one side of his face drooping noticeably. Sir, you need to stay still, Nora said gently, checking his vitals. We're going to take good care of you. Don't need care. Need to get home. Wife's making pot roast. His words slurred together. The pot roast can wait. Your health can't. She worked through the morning, moving from patient to patient, crisis to crisis. This was what she was good at. Staying calm when everything else was chaos, being the steady presence people needed when their world was falling apart. At noon, she grabbed 15 minutes to scarf down a granola bar in the break room. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elias. Still good for tonight? I found a great Thai place in Capitol Hill. Casual. Amazing food. My treat, but if you insist on splitting, I won't fight you. But I'll want to. Nora smiled despite her exhaustion. She typed back, tonight works. 7? And we can discuss the bill situation when we get there. His response came immediately, 7 is perfect. I'll pick you up? She hesitated, thinking about her tiny apartment in a building that had definitely seen better days, then decided honesty was how they'd started and honesty was how they'd continue. Here's my address, she sent, followed by her location. Fair warning, it's not fancy. Good. I've had enough fancy for one lifetime. The afternoon shift dragged. By the time 7 o'clock approached, Nora was running on fumes and caffeine. She changed out of her scrubs in the hospital locker room, pulling on jeans and a bright red sweater that Bethany had given her last Christmas. She'd run home after work to check on Dante, who was safely at their neighbor Mrs. Chen's apartment doing homework, with strict instructions about his inhaler and bedtime. At exactly 7 her phone rang. I'm downstairs, Elias said. Take your time. Nora grabbed her purse and headed down. The same black sedan from last night was parked at the curb, but this time Elias was leaning against it, wearing jeans and a dark green sweater that made his eyes stand out even more. Hi, he said, smiling. Hi yourself. Nora felt suddenly shy, which was ridiculous given how much they'd talked last night. He opened the car door for her, and they drove through Seattle's evening traffic toward Capitol Hill. The restaurant he'd chosen was nothing like Lumiere. It was small, bright, with mismatched chairs and walls covered in Thai artwork. The smell of spices and coconut milk made Nora's stomach growl. This is perfect, she said as they slid into a booth. I thought you might like it. Real food, real atmosphere, no pretension. Elias handed her a menu. Everything here is incredible, but the pad thai is life-changing. They ordered, and as they waited for food, the conversation picked up exactly where it had left off the night before, as if no time had passed at all. Tell me about your work, Nora said. What's it actually like, investing in companies? Elias considered this. It's like being a talent scout but for ideas. Someone comes to you with a vision, maybe they've built a prototype or written code or developed some new technology, and you have to decide if you believe in it enough to risk money on it. Sometimes you're right and something amazing grows from that initial investment. Sometimes you're spectacularly wrong. Which happens more often? Wrong, honestly. Most startups fail. But the ones that succeed, they change things. That's what keeps me going. The food arrived, steaming plates of color and fragrance. Nora took a bite of pad thai and actually moaned. Okay, you were right. This is life-changing. They ate and talked, and somewhere between the main course and dessert, Nora realized she was having more fun than she'd had in years. Elias was funny, self-deprecating, curious about everything. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He didn't try to impress her or show off. He was just present. Can I ask you something? Elias said as they finished their meal. Sure. Last night you mentioned your brother has asthma. How bad is it? Nora's guard went up automatically. Why? Because when you talk about him, I can see the worry in your eyes. And I get the feeling it's more than just typical big sister concern. She debated deflecting, but something about Elias made her want to be honest. It's pretty bad. He's had 3 hospitalizations in the past year. We've got a decent insurance plan through my job, but there are still bills. Co-pays, medications that aren't fully covered, specialist visits. It adds up. That must be terrifying. And expensive. Both. But we manage. Nora met his eyes. We always manage. I don't doubt that for a second. Elias reached across the table, his hand covering hers. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met, Nora Caldwell. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you raised your brother while building a career. I know you show up for people even when it costs you. I know you stood in the rain outside an expensive restaurant because your friend needed you. He squeezed her hand gently. I know you're real in a way most people in my world aren't. Nora felt tears prick her eyes, unexpected and unwelcome. Stop. You'll make me cry and I don't cry. Never? Not in front of people. Why not? Because if I start, I might not stop. And Dante needs me to keep it together. Elias's expression softened. Everyone needs to fall apart sometimes. It doesn't make you weak. Easy to say when you're not responsible for a kid's entire life. Fair point. He didn't let go of her hand. But maybe you don't have to do it all alone. Just a thought. The waiter brought the check and before Nora could even reach for it, Elias had his credit card out. Elias. Nora. Let me. Please. His tone was gentle but firm. You can get the next one. The next one? I'm assuming there will be a next one. I'd like there to be about 100 next ones if I'm being honest. Despite herself, Nora smiled. 100. At least, maybe more. I haven't decided yet. They left the restaurant and walked through Capitol Hill, past coffee shops and bookstores and bars filled with Friday night energy. Elias pointed out places he liked, and Nora shared her own memories of the neighborhood, back when she'd first moved to Seattle for nursing school. At some point, his hand found hers, their fingers interlacing naturally. It felt right in a way Nora couldn't explain. Can I tell you something? Elias said as they paused in front of a bookstore window. Always. I haven't felt this comfortable with someone in, I don't know how long. Maybe ever. You're easy to talk to. Easy to be around. You don't want anything from me except my company, and that's so rare, I almost don't know how to process it. Nora turned to face him. I like spending time with you too. Even though this is completely crazy. We're from different worlds, Elias. You know that, right? I know we come from different circumstances. But worlds? I don't know. We're both here, both real, both trying to figure out how to be happy. That seems like the same world to me. He was standing close enough that Nora could see the flecks of gold in his blue eyes. Close enough that she could feel the warmth of him in the cool evening air. This is probably a terrible idea, she whispered. Probably, he agreed. We should be practical. We should. We barely know each other. True. So why does this feel so right? I have no idea. Elias lifted his free hand, gently tucking a strand of her hair behind her ear. But it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does. He leaned down slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. When his lips met hers, soft and tentative, Nora felt something she'd forgotten existed. Hope. Not the grim, determined hope that got her through hard shifts and medical bills, but something lighter, warmer, like sunlight breaking through clouds. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. So, Elias said, his voice slightly breathless. About those 100 dinners. Let's start with one more and see how it goes. Deal. He drove her home, and this time when she got out of the car, he got out too, walking her to her building's entrance. Text me when you're inside safely? He asked. It's 30 feet and a locked door. I think I'll survive. Humor me. Nora stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Good night, Elias Montgomery. Good night, Nora Caldwell. Same time tomorrow? Same time tomorrow. She walked into her building, turned around once to wave and saw him still standing there, watching her with that same expression from last night. Something between wonder and disbelief. Her phone buzzed before she even reached her apartment door. I miss you already. Is that weird? That's probably weird. But it's also true. Nora typed back, not weird. I feel it too. In her apartment, she found Dante asleep on the couch, his astronomy book open on his chest. Mrs. Chen had left a note saying he'd been good, eaten dinner, done his homework, used his inhaler at 8 like he was supposed to. Nora gently moved the book, covered her brother with a blanket, and stood there for a moment, watching him sleep. He looked so small, so vulnerable. But also peaceful. Safe. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Elias. Sleep well. Dream good dreams. I'll be thinking about you. For the first time in a very long time, Nora thought maybe, just maybe, good things were allowed to happen to her too. Saturday afternoon found Nora in the produce section of Costco, trying to stretch her grocery budget while Dante complained about having to push the giant cart. "Why do we need this much oatmeal?" he asked, eyeing the industrial-sized container she'd just loaded. "Because it's cheaper this way and you eat it every morning. I could eat something else." "You like oatmeal?" "I tolerate oatmeal." Nora shot him a look. "Dante Caldwell, we've had this conversation. Breakfast is important and oatmeal is healthy and affordable. End of discussion." "You sound like a mom," he muttered, but he was smiling. "Good. That's my job." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out to find a text from Elias. Random question: is Dante allergic to anything besides the obvious environmental stuff? And what's his favorite food? Nora typed back quickly, "Why are you asking about my brother?" "Because I thought maybe tomorrow we could do lunch instead of dinner? The three of us? If that's not overstepping. I'd really like to meet him. But no pressure." Nora stared at her phone, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. They'd been on exactly 2 dates. Meeting Dante was significant. It meant this was more than just casual dinners and conversation. "Nora?" Dante was looking at her with concern. "You okay? You look weird." "I'm fine." She chewed her lip, then made a decision. "How would you feel about meeting someone tomorrow?" "A friend of mine." "What kind of friend?" Dante's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Is this a friend or is this a boyfriend? I don't know what he is yet. But he's nice and he wants to take us to lunch." "Us? Like both of us?" "Both of us." Dante considered this seriously. "Is he going to ask me weird questions about my asthma and treat me like I'm made of glass?" "I don't think so. But if he does, you have my permission to call him out on it." "Deal." "What's his name?" "Elias." "Elias?" Dante tested the name. "Okay. I can work with that. Does he like space?" "I have no idea. You can ask him tomorrow." Nora texted Elias back. "Tomorrow works. Lunch sounds great. He's not allergic to any foods and his favorite is pizza. Any kind but especially pepperoni. Fair warning, he's going to grill you about whether you know the difference between a meteor and a meteorite." "I'm ready for the quiz." "And Nora? Thank you for trusting me with this." That night, after Dante was asleep, Nora lay in bed staring at her ceiling, her mind racing. She was letting someone new into their carefully constructed life. Someone who could hurt them. Someone who came from a completely different world. But she was also thinking about how Elias looked at her, like she was someone worth seeing. How he listened when she talked, really listened. How he made her laugh. How safe she felt around him. Her phone lit up with another text. "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about tomorrow. Keep thinking about you. Is it weird that I'm nervous about meeting a 12-year-old? Completely normal. He's intimidating when he wants to be. Great. No pressure then. Just be yourself. That's all either of us need. What if myself isn't enough? It will be. Trust me." Sunday afternoon, Elias picked them up in his car, but this time he was driving himself. No driver, no fancy sedan. Just a regular, very nice but not ostentatious SUV. Dante climbed into the back seat and immediately started his assessment. "So you're Elias?" "I am. And you're Dante. Nora's told me a lot about you. Good things or weird things?" "Mostly good things. Some impressive things. I heard you want to be an astronaut." Dante's eyes lit up. "You know about that? Your sister mentioned it. That's a big goal. Takes a lot of work." "I know. I've already started planning. I need to stay healthy, keep my grades up, learn multiple languages, and probably get a degree in aerospace engineering or physics." Dante rattled off the list like he'd memorized it, which he probably had. "My asthma is a problem, but NASA has made exceptions before. Besides, they might have better treatments by the time I'm old enough." "That's smart thinking," Elias said, pulling into traffic. "Long-term planning with room for adaptation." "Are you trying to impress him with big words?" Dante asked bluntly. Elias laughed. "Maybe a little. Is it working?" "Kind of." "What do you do?" "For work, I mean." "I'm an investor. I help companies grow by giving them money and advice." "So you're rich?" "Dante," Nora interjected, mortified. "What? It's a reasonable question. If he's investing money, he probably has money." Dante looked at Elias seriously. "Are you rich?" "Yes," Elias said simply. "I am." "Okay. Just wanted to know." "Nora says I should always ask direct questions if I want direct answers." She also says it's rude to ask people about money, but you seem okay with it. I appreciate directness. Makes conversations easier. Elias glanced at Dante in the rearview mirror. Any other questions? Do you know the difference between a meteor and a meteorite? A meteor is the streak of light you see when a space rock enters the atmosphere. A meteorite is the actual rock that survives and hits the ground. Did I pass? Dante grinned. You passed. They went to a pizza place in Fremont, nothing fancy but clean and bright with excellent reviews. Elias let Dante order 3 different types of pizza so they could try everything. That's too much food, Nora protested. Then we'll have leftovers. Leftovers are great. Elias winked at Dante, who was clearly already charmed. Over pizza the conversation flowed easily. Elias asked Dante about school, about his favorite subjects, about what he was reading. Dante, never shy, asked Elias about investing, about whether he liked his job, about where he grew up. Boston, Elias answered. Very different from Seattle. More traditional. More rigid. Why'd you leave? Needed space to breathe. To figure out who I was separate from my family name. He took a bite of pizza. Best decision I ever made. Do you miss them? Your family? Sometimes. But missing someone and being good for each other aren't always the same thing. Dante nodded like this made perfect sense. Like my friend Tyler. I miss hanging out with him, but he always made fun of my inhaler, so Nora said maybe that friendship wasn't healthy. Your sister's smart. I know. She's basically always right. It's annoying. Nora threw a napkin at him. You love it. I tolerate it. After lunch, Elias suggested they go to the science center downtown. Dante's entire face transformed with excitement. Really? The planetarium show is today. I've been wanting to go for months, but tickets are expensive. Then it's settled. Planetarium show it is. At the science center, Nora tried to pay for their tickets, but Elias had already handed his card to the cashier. Elias. Nora. Please. I invited you guys. Let me do this. You can't just pay for everything. Why not? Because it's not fair. Because I don't want you to think we need your money. I don't think that. I think I have money and I'd like to spend it on people I care about, having experiences that make them happy. There's no obligation. No strings. Just the simple joy of watching Dante's face light up when we walk into that planetarium. Nora looked at Dante, who was practically vibrating with excitement, then back at Elias. Okay, she said softly. Thank you. Really. Thank you. The planetarium show was about the search for exoplanets, and Dante spent the entire hour absolutely entranced, occasionally whispering facts to Elias, who listened with genuine interest. Afterward, they walked through the exhibits, and Elias bought Dante a book about Mars missions from the gift shop. You didn't have to do that, Dante said, clutching the book like it was treasure. I wanted to. Consider it a congratulations on passing my meteor quiz earlier. As they drove home, Dante fell asleep in the back seat, the book still in his hands. He likes you, Nora said quietly. I like him. He's brilliant, funny, honest. Elias glanced at her. You've done an amazing job with him. I just show up every day. That's all I know how to do. That's everything, Nora. Don't you see that? You show up. Every day. For him. For your patients. For your friends. You're the most consistently present person I've ever met. Nora felt her throat tighten. Stop making me emotional in front of my sleeping brother. Sorry? But it's true. When they reached her apartment, Elias helped carry Dante upstairs. Her brother barely woke up as Nora got him into bed, still clutching his new book. In the living room, Elias stood by the door, clearly reluctant to leave. Today was perfect, he said. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Thank you for making it happen. Dante's going to talk about that planetarium show for weeks. Good. You should have those moments. Experiences. Joy. You both should. Nora stepped closer. Elias, can I ask you something? Anything. Why us? You could date anyone. Someone from your world, someone without complications or medical bills, or a 12-year-old brother to consider. Why are you here? Elias cupped her face gently. Because every time I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be real. You don't want anything from me except my time and my honesty. You challenge me. You make me laugh. You make me want to be better. He paused. And because when I look at you, I see someone extraordinary, even if you can't see it yourself. I'm not extraordinary. I'm just trying to survive. You're raising a child, building a career, holding everything together through sheer will and love. That's not just survival, Nora. That's grace under pressure. That's strength. That's extraordinary. She kissed him then, soft and deep, pouring everything she couldn't say into that kiss. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. Stay, she whispered. For a while. We can watch a movie or just talk. I'm not ready for you to leave yet. Neither am I. They settled on the couch, Nora curled against his side, his arm around her shoulders. They put on a movie neither of them watched, too busy talking in low voices about everything and nothing. Tell me about your family, Nora said. The real story, not the polite version. Elias sighed. My father built a financial empire. Very successful. Very demanding. He had specific expectations for me. Business school, join the family firm, marry someone appropriate, produce heirs, continue the dynasty. I did the business school part. That's where I stopped following the script. What happened? I realized I didn't want his life. Didn't want to spend my days making rich people richer while pretending I cared about quarterly reports and shareholder value. I wanted to build something meaningful. So I left. Started my own firm. Focused on companies trying to solve real problems, not just maximize profits. How'd he take it? About as well as you'd expect. We haven't spoken in 3 years. My mother calls occasionally, but always with some new reason why I should come home, make amends, take my rightful place in the family business. He laughed bitterly. She doesn't understand that I don't want that place. I never did. That must hurt. Being estranged from them. Sometimes. But freedom hurts less than living someone else's life. He pulled her closer. What about your parents? You said they died in an accident. Do you want to talk about it? Nora was quiet for a long moment. It was 4 years ago. They were driving home from my nursing school graduation. A drunk driver ran a red light. They both died instantly. Dante was 8. I was 24, just starting my career, completely unprepared to become a parent. God, Nora. I'm so sorry. The worst part was telling Dante. Having to explain that they were gone, that it was just us now, that everything was going to change. He was so small, so confused. He kept asking when they were coming back. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I had to figure it out fast because he needed me to be strong. Elias wiped her tears gently. You were 24. That's so young to take on that responsibility. I didn't have a choice. He's my brother. I love him. You don't abandon people you love just because things get hard. Not everyone thinks that way. Then not everyone deserves the people in their lives. They sat in comfortable silence, the movie playing unwatched in the background. Elias. Nora said after a while. Yeah. I'm scared. Of what? Of this. Of us. Of letting myself hope that something good is actually happening. She turned to look at him. I'm scared you'll realize how complicated my life is and decide it's not worth it. I'm scared of Dante getting attached and then you leaving. I'm scared of trusting this feeling because what if it's not real? What if it's just a nice fantasy that falls apart when reality sets in? Elias took both her hands in his. Nora, I can't promise the future. Nobody can. But I can promise you this. I'm here because I want to be. Not out of pity or obligation or curiosity. Because when I'm with you, everything makes sense in a way it hasn't in years. Because Dante is amazing and you're incredible and this, right here, feels more real than anything I've experienced in my expensive, carefully constructed life. But what happens when? Stop. No what ifs. Not tonight. Tonight, let's just be two people who found each other by accident and are choosing deliberately to keep finding each other. He kissed her forehead. Can we do that? Nora nodded, letting herself relax against him. Okay. No what ifs. Just this. They stayed like that until Elias finally had to leave well past midnight. At the door he kissed her one more time, slow and sweet. I'll call you tomorrow, he promised. You better. As she locked the door behind him, Nora felt something unfamiliar settling in her chest. The cautious, fragile beginning of happiness. Monday morning hit Nora like a truck. Her alarm went off at 5:30, dragging her from dreams where she wasn't tired, wasn't worried about money, and Elias was there making her laugh. Reality felt harsher in comparison. She dragged herself through her morning routine, made Dante breakfast, and caught the bus to Seattle General just in time for her shift. The ER was already packed. A construction worker with a broken arm, an elderly woman with chest pains, a teenager who'd overdosed at a party. The chaos left no room for thoughts about millionaire investors or planetarium dates. It wasn't until her lunch break, 12 hours into her shift, that she finally checked her phone. 5 missed calls from the hospital billing department. Her stomach dropped. She called back, already knowing what was coming. Miss Caldwell, this is Rachel from Patient Billing. I'm calling about your brother Dante's account. You're currently 3 months behind on payments, and the balance has reached. I know, Nora interrupted, rubbing her temples. I know I'm behind. I'm working on it. I understand that, but we need to discuss a payment plan. The total amount owed is now approaching $18,000, and without regular payments, we'll have to send the account to collections. $18,000. The number made Nora's vision blur. She'd been paying what she could, usually a couple $100s each month, but Dante had needed a new specialist, new medications, emergency room visits that insurance barely covered. The bills piled up faster than she could pay them down. What do I need to do? She asked, keeping her voice steady through sheer will. We need at least $1,000 this month, and a commitment to regular payments of no less than $500 going forward. $1,000. Nora had $400 in her checking account and next month's rent due in 2 weeks. I'll figure it out, she heard herself say. I'll get you the payment. Thank you, Miss Caldwell. We'll expect it by the end of the week. Nora ended the call and sat in the break room, staring at her phone. $1,000. How was she supposed to come up with $1,000? She could pick up extra shifts, but she was already working 50 hours a week. She could sell something, but she didn't own anything valuable. She could ask Bethany for a loan, but Bethany was a teacher, barely making ends meet herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elias. How's your day going? Missing you. Nora stared at the message. Elias could solve this problem with what amounted to pocket change for him. $1,000 probably wasn't even what he spent on groceries each month. But asking felt impossible. They'd been on 3 dates. He'd already paid for expensive dinners, science center tickets, Dante's book. She couldn't ask for more. She typed back, "Day's fine. Busy. Miss you too." The lie tasted bitter, but what was she supposed to say? Actually, I'm drowning in medical debt and panicking about how to keep my brother's care from going to collections? That wasn't a conversation for text message. Her shift ended at 7. She took the bus home, picked up Dante from Mrs. Chen's and tried to act normal while making dinner. You're quiet, Dante observed, poking at his spaghetti. Did something happen at work? Just tired. Long day. Nora forced a smile. How was school? Fine. We started reading The Outsiders in English. It's pretty good. He watched her carefully. Are you sure you're okay? I'm fine, kiddo. Promise. But she wasn't fine. After Dante went to bed, Nora sat at their kitchen table with a calculator and spreadsheet, trying to make numbers work that absolutely did not work. No matter how she arranged things, there wasn't enough money. Her phone rang. Elias. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hey, his voice was warm. I know you said you were busy, but I wanted to hear your voice. Is this a bad time? No, it's okay. Dante's asleep. You sound stressed. What's wrong? Nothing. Just tired. The lie came easier this time but felt worse. Nora. His tone shifted, becoming gentle but firm. Talk to me. What's actually going on? And suddenly she couldn't hold it in anymore. The words poured out. The phone call from billing, the $18,000, the $1,000 she needed to find in the next few days, the crushing weight of trying to keep everything together while slowly drowning. I don't know what to do, she finished, her voice breaking. I'm out of options. I've been picking up every extra shift I can. I've cut every expense. But it's never enough. The bills keep coming and Dante needs his medications, and I can't let them send his care to collections because what if he has an emergency and they won't treat him? What if something happens because I couldn't keep up with payments? Elias was quiet for a long moment. Then, let me help. No. Nora. No, Elias. I can't ask you for money. We've been on 3 dates. 3. I won't be that person. What person? The person who dates someone for their money. The person who takes advantage. I won't do it. That's not what this is. His voice was steady. This is me, someone who cares about you and Dante, offering to help with a problem I can easily solve. $18,000 isn't going to change my life, but it's clearly destroying yours. Easy for you to say. You have money. Exactly. I have money. Money I can use to help people I care about. Why is that wrong? Because it changes things. Because then I owe you. Because... You don't owe me anything, Elias interrupted. This isn't a loan. This isn't a transaction. This is someone helping someone else because they can and because they want to. I can't, Elias. I can't take that much money from you. Then take the $1,000 for this month. Let me help with that while you figure out the rest. Nora's chest tightened. Her pride screamed at her to refuse, But practicality whispered that Dante's health was more important than her ego. Why? She asked quietly. Why would you do this? Because you'd do it for me if the situations were reversed. Because that's what people do when they care about each other. They help. But, Nora, please, let me do this. Let me help take this stress off your shoulders even just a little bit. She closed her eyes, thinking about Dante's inhaler, his medications, the appointments he needed. Thinking about the fear that lived in her chest every time he had trouble breathing, wondering if this would be the time she couldn't afford his care. Okay, she whispered. The 1,000 for this month. But I'm paying you back. I don't care how long it takes. If you insist on paying me back, fine. But there's no timeline. No interest. No pressure. Thank you. The words felt inadequate. I don't know how to thank you enough. You don't have to thank me. Just, let me be here for you. Stop trying to do everything alone. They talked for another hour about nothing and everything, until Nora's eyes were heavy with exhaustion. Get some sleep, Elias said finally. I'll take care of the payment tomorrow. You just focus on taking care of your patients and your brother. Let me worry about the rest. After hanging up, Nora sat in the dark, her emotions a tangled mess. Relief that this month's crisis was solved. Gratitude for Elias's generosity. Shame that she'd needed help. Fear about what this meant for their relationship. Her phone lit up with one more text. Stop overthinking. Some things are just meant to help each other. That's all this is. Sleep well, Nora. You deserve rest. For the first time in months, Nora went to bed without the crushing weight of immediate financial panic. It should have felt better than it did. Are you someone who finds it hard to accept help, even when you desperately need it? Have you ever had to choose between pride and survival? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to see how Nora and Elias navigate the complicated space between independence and love. Tuesday morning, Nora woke to a confirmation email from Seattle General's billing department. Payment received, $1,000. Account current. She stared at the email on her phone, emotions washing over her in waves. Relief. Gratitude. A deep, uncomfortable vulnerability. Elias had actually done it. No hesitation, no conditions, just help offered and delivered. She texted him, I got the confirmation. Thank you. I mean it. Thank you. His response came immediately, you're welcome. How are you feeling? Honestly? I don't know. Grateful. Guilty. Relieved. Confused. All of it at once. The guilty part we need to work on. You have nothing to feel guilty about. Easy for you to say. Nora, if Dante needed surgery tomorrow and it cost $100,000, would you find a way to pay for it? Of course. Would you feel guilty about spending the money to save him? That's different. How? You'd spend money you don't have because someone you love needs help. I'm spending money I do have for the same reason. The only difference is scale. Nora read the message 3 times trying to process the logic. He had a point even if her pride didn't want to admit it. Can I see you today? She typed. I have the evening off. Maybe we could talk? In person? I'll pick you up at 6. The day dragged. Nora's shift was relatively calm, which meant her mind had too much space to spiral. Every time she passed the billing office, she thought about Elias's payment. Every time she checked on a patient, she wondered if she was taking advantage of his generosity. By the time 6 o'clock came, she was wound tight with anxiety. Elias showed up at her apartment building exactly on time, wearing jeans and a blue sweater that made his eyes stand out. He kissed her cheek, then pulled back to study her face. You've been spiraling all day, haven't you? How do you know? Because I know you. And because I've been doing the same thing, worrying that I overstepped, that I made you uncomfortable, that I pushed too hard. You didn't push. I'm not good at accepting help. I noticed. He took her hand. Come on. Let's walk. They walked through her neighborhood, past corner stores and bus stops and apartment buildings that had seen better days. Elias didn't seem out of place here like Nora had feared. He just seemed present, comfortable, interested in everything she pointed out. I want to show you something, Nora said, stopping in front of an empty storefront. The windows were dusty, the for lease sign faded, but the space was decent sized with good light. What is it? My dream. Or it was anyway. She peered through the window. I used to walk past this place every day on my way to the bus stop. I'd imagined turning it into a community health clinic. Somewhere people in this neighborhood could come for basic care, preventive services, health education. Somewhere they didn't have to choose between seeing a doctor and paying rent. That's an incredible vision. It's an expensive vision. Between licensing, equipment, staff, supplies, rent, I'd need at least $250,000 to get started. More to keep it running the first few years. She laughed bitterly. So yeah, it's a nice dream. That's all it'll ever be. Elias was quiet for a long moment, staring at the empty space. What if it didn't have to be just a dream? Elias, hear me out. What if I helped you make this happen? Nora's heart started pounding. No, absolutely not. Why not? Because $1,000 to help with medical bills is one thing. $250,000 to fund my dream clinic is something completely different. Not to me. He turned to face her. Nora, I invest in things I believe in. Companies, ideas, people trying to solve real problems. This checks every box. This is exactly the kind of project I'd fund. It's not a business. It's a non-profit clinic. Even better. I've been looking for good local organizations to support. Something meaningful. Something that actually helps people. His excitement was growing. This could work. You've got the vision, the expertise, the passion. You understand the community's needs because you're part of this community. I could help with the financial side, setting up the nonprofit structure, finding additional funding sources. Stop. Nora held up her hand. Just stop. This is too much. Why? Because I can't take that much from you. Because it crosses every line. Because then what are we? A couple? A business partnership? A charity case? Her voice rose. I won't be some project you fund because you feel sorry for me. Is that what you think this is? Elias's voice was sharp now. Pity? I don't know what else to call it. How about believing in someone? How about wanting to help them achieve something amazing because they deserve it and because you can? How about caring enough to want to see them succeed? But why me? Why this? You could fund 100 different projects. Because when you talk about this clinic, your whole face lights up. Because I've seen you with your patients, seen how much you care, how hard you work to help people with limited resources. Because this neighborhood needs this, and you're the person who can make it happen. He stepped closer. And yes, because I'm falling for you, and part of falling for someone is wanting to help them achieve their dreams. That's not pity. That's partnership. Nora felt tears threatening. I'm scared. Of what? Of all of it. Of failing. Of owing you more than I can ever repay. Of this changing everything between us. Of Dante getting more attached to you and then you realizing this is all too much and leaving. The words tumbled out, raw and honest. I'm scared that accepting this much help means giving up the independence I've fought so hard to maintain. I'm scared of needing you. Elias pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I'm scared too. I'm scared of screwing this up. I'm scared you'll wake up one day and realize you could do better than a guy who doesn't know how to have a real relationship. I'm scared that my money will always be this thing between us instead of just a tool we can use to build something good. Nora pulled back to look at him. We're a mess, aren't we? The best things usually are. He wiped a tear from her cheek. Nora, I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm just asking you to think about it. Really think about it. Not just the scary parts but the possible parts. Imagine what this clinic could mean for this community. Imagine yourself running it, helping people, making the kind of difference you've always wanted to make. And what do you get out of it? I get to watch you do something incredible. I get to be part of something that actually matters. And selfishly, I get to spend more time with you because you'll be building something instead of working yourself to death just to stay afloat. They stood there on the sidewalk as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Nora looked back at the empty storefront, trying to imagine it filled with examination rooms and waiting areas and hope. Can I think about it? She asked finally. Take all the time you need. They walked back to her apartment in comfortable silence. At her door, Elias cupped her face gently. Whatever you decide, it doesn't change how I feel about you. This offer isn't conditional on us being together. If you want the clinic but not me, I'll still help. If you want me but not the clinic, that's fine too. These are separate things, Nora. Don't tie them together in your head. How can I not? Everything's connected. Because the clinic is about your dream and this community's need. Us being together is about two people who accidentally found each other and decided to keep choosing each other. Those are different things with different reasons for existing. Nora kissed him, soft and lingering. You're making this very hard to say no to. Good. That's the plan. He grinned. Talk to Dante. See what he thinks. Kid's smart. He might have perspective you need. After Elias left, Nora found Dante in his room, supposedly doing homework but actually reading his Mars book. Hey, she said, sitting on his bed. Can we talk? About Elias? Because I like him. He's cool. You can marry him if you want. Nora laughed despite herself. It's a bit early for marriage talk. But yeah, kind of about Elias. He offered to help me with something and I don't know what to do. What kind of help? Nora explained about the clinic, about Elias's offer to fund it, about her fears and confusion. Dante listened carefully, then said, "Do you want to do it? The clinic thing? More than anything. Then do it. It's not that simple." "Yeah, it is. You want to help people. He has money. He wants to help you help people. That's pretty simple." Dante set down his book. "Nora, you've been working so hard for so long. You've taken care of me, built your career, kept everything together. Maybe it's okay to let someone else help for once. But what if? What if nothing? You always tell me to take opportunities when they come. To be grateful. To accept help when people offer it." He gave her a pointed look. "Maybe you should take your own advice." Out of the mouths of 12-year-olds. That night, Nora lay in bed thinking about the empty storefront, about examination rooms and waiting areas and people who needed care. She thought about Elias's words, "I invest in things I believe in." He believed in her. When was the last time someone besides Dante had believed in her that completely? She picked up her phone and texted Elias, "I want to do it. The clinic. But we need to do this right. Legal agreements. Clear expectations. Everything documented." His response came fast, "Absolutely. I'll have my lawyer draw up papers. This will be a proper investment in a legitimate nonprofit. You'll be the director. I'll be a donor, nothing more." "Nothing more? Okay, I'll also be your boyfriend if you'll have me. But that's separate paperwork." Nora smiled at her phone. "Boyfriend paperwork. Is that a thing? For us. We can make it a thing. Whatever makes you comfortable." "I'm not comfortable. I'm terrified. But I'm also excited." "How is that possible?" "Because the best things in life are usually terrifying and exciting at the same time. Like standing on the edge of something new, knowing it might not work but deciding to jump anyway." "When did you become a philosopher?" "When I met you. You make me think about things differently." Nora hugged her phone to her chest, feeling something shift and settle in her heart. This was happening. She was really going to do this. Build the clinic. Accept Elias's help. Step into a future she'd only dreamed about. "Thank you," she typed. "For believing in me. For pushing me to believe in myself. For being patient with all my fears and doubts. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with your dreams and your brother and your heart. I promise not to waste any of it." "You better not. Dante will hunt you down." "Noted. That kid's scarier than he looks." Nora fell asleep smiling, her phone still in her hand, dreaming of empty storefronts filled with hope and purpose and possibility. The next 3 weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Elias connected Nora with his lawyer, who helped establish the nonprofit structure for what they named Caldwell Community Health. The paperwork was clear. Elias was a donor, Nora was the founder and director. Everything was legal, documented, and above board. They met with contractors to assess the empty storefront. It needed work, but the bones were good. Large windows would let in natural light. The layout could accommodate 6 examination rooms, a waiting area, a small lab for basic tests, and office space. "This is really happening," Nora said, standing in the middle of the empty space, her voice echoing off bare walls. Elias stood beside her, his hand finding hers. "This is really happening. How does it feel?" "Terrifying. Exciting. Like I might throw up from nervousness. That's pretty much how I felt starting my first company." He squeezed her hand. "But you're not alone this time. You've got me. And Dante. And eventually, a whole team of people who believe in this mission." The renovations began. Nora spent her days off meeting with medical supply companies, interviewing potential staff, designing patient intake processes. Elias attended meetings when he could, offering advice on business structure and financial planning while making it clear this was Nora's vision to execute. "What do you think about offering evening hours?" Nora asked during one planning session. They were sitting in her apartment, paperwork spread across the kitchen table while Dante did homework nearby. "A lot of people in this neighborhood work day shifts. They can't afford to miss work for doctor's appointments." "Makes sense. What about weekends too? Maybe Saturday mornings to start? See what the demand is." Elias made a note. "We should also think about language access. This neighborhood has a significant Spanish-speaking population, right? And Somali. And Vietnamese." Nora chewed her pen. "I've been thinking about hiring bilingual staff. Maybe partnering with community organizations for interpretation services. Good idea. Want me to research grant opportunities for that? There's federal funding for language access in healthcare. They work together seamlessly, Nora's medical expertise complementing Elias's business knowledge. Dante occasionally chimed in with surprisingly insightful questions. How will people pay? He asked, looking up from his math homework. Like, what if they don't have insurance? Sliding scale fees, Nora explained. We'll charge based on what people can afford. Some will pay full price, some will pay reduced rates, some won't pay anything. But then how do you make money? We don't. We're a non-profit. The goal isn't profit, it's sustainability. Elias's initial funding, plus grants and donations, will cover the gap between what we charge and what we need to operate. Dante looked at Elias with new respect. That's actually pretty cool. You're funding healthcare for people who can't afford it. Your sister's doing the real work. I'm just writing checks. Still counts. As the clinic progressed, Nora and Elias's relationship deepened too. He started keeping a toothbrush at her apartment. She had a drawer at his place for when she stayed over. They fell into an easy rhythm. Dinners together several nights a week, Sunday mornings at the farmer's market, evenings planning the clinic or just talking about nothing. Elias introduced her to his world gradually. A charity gala for a children's hospital where Nora felt completely out of place until she started talking to other doctors and realized she had more in common with them than she'd expected. A business dinner with potential investors where she watched Elias work, impressed by how he balanced charm and substance. You're good at this, she said afterward as they walked to his car. At what? Reading people. Knowing what they need to hear. Making them believe in things. It's part of the job. But it's easier when I actually believe in the thing I'm pitching. He opened the car door for her. Like I believe in you. That part's not performance. Nora pulled him close and kissed him. I believe in you too. Even when you're wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first car. The suit's just armor. You see past it. That's why I love you. The words hung in the air. Elias looked surprised, like he hadn't meant to say them out loud. I love you too, Nora said softly. Even though you're ridiculous and persistent and you somehow convinced me to accept $250,000 to build my dream clinic. Best investment I ever made. They drove back to her apartment where Mrs. Chen was watching Dante. Inside they found her brother teaching their neighbor how to play chess. Mrs. Chen's actually good at this, Dante said, moving his bishop. She almost beat me twice. Almost only counts in horseshoes, Mrs. Chen said cheerfully, capturing his knight. Elias settled on the couch to watch, offering commentary that made both Dante and Mrs. Chen laugh. Nora stood in the kitchen doorway, watching this man who'd somehow woven himself into the fabric of their lives, and felt her heart swell with something she'd been afraid to name. Later, after Mrs. Chen left and Dante was in bed, Elias and Nora sat on her small balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the city lights. Can I ask you something? Nora said. Always. What do your friends think about us? About you dating someone like me? Someone like you? You know what I mean. Someone from a different economic background. Someone with complications. Elias took a sip of wine, considering. Most of my friends are happy for me. They can see I'm happier than I've been in years. A few have made comments, suggesting maybe I'm moving too fast or getting too involved in your life. And what do you tell them? That they don't understand what I've found with you. That they're so worried about maintaining boundaries and protecting assets that they've forgotten what it's like to just be present with another person. He turned to face her. My life before you was comfortable but empty. I had money, success, all the external markers of achievement. But I was lonely, Nora. Deeply, fundamentally lonely. You changed that. By being broke and needy? By being real. By letting me see who you actually are instead of who you think I want you to be. By having needs, yes, but also by having dreams and strength and this incredible capacity to love despite everything you've been through. Nora leaned her head on his shoulder. I worry sometimes that I'm not enough for you. That eventually you'll want someone who can keep up with your lifestyle, who knows which fork to use at fancy dinners, who doesn't have a 12-year-old brother to consider in every decision. Then stop worrying. Because I've dated those people. They were boring. They cared more about being seen with me than actually seeing me. He kissed the top of her head. You're more than enough. You're everything. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the city sounds. Cars passing, distant sirens, neighbors talking on their balconies. The clinic opens in 6 weeks, Nora said. I'm so nervous I might actually vibrate out of my skin. You're going to be incredible. You've thought of everything, planned for every contingency. What if nobody comes? They'll come. This neighborhood needs what you're offering. What if I can't handle it? Running a clinic, managing staff, seeing patients. Then we'll figure it out together. Hire more help. Adjust the model. Whatever it takes. Elias pulled her closer. Stop looking for reasons this will fail. Start believing it will succeed. That's not how my brain works. I plan for worst-case scenarios. I know. But maybe try trusting best-case scenarios for once. Trust yourself. Trust us. Trust that good things are allowed to happen to you. Nora turned to kiss him, soft and slow. I'm trying. You make it easier. Good. That's my job. That and writing checks and occasionally beating Dante at chess. You've never beaten Dante at chess. Yet. I've never beaten him yet. Give me time. Inside, they found Dante had left them a note on the kitchen table. Elias, you left your jacket in my room when you were helping with my science project. Also, you're out of moves in chess. I'm 3 steps from checkmate. Also, Nora, stop worrying. You're going to do great with the clinic. Love, the smart one. That kid, Elias said, laughing and shaking his head. He's not wrong though. About the checkmate thing. He mentioned it earlier. He told you and you didn't warn me? Where's the fun in that? Elias chased her around the small apartment, both of them trying to be quiet and failing, laughing like teenagers. When he caught her, he pinned her against the kitchen counter, kissing her breathless. I love this, he murmured against her lips. I love us. I love getting to be part of your life, your chaos, your dreams. Even when we're loud and probably waking the neighbors? Especially then. They settled on the couch, Nora curled against Elias's side, both of them scrolling through clinic plans on her laptop. This was becoming their normal. Work and romance tangled together, building something meaningful while building something beautiful. Elias, Nora said sleepily. Oh, thank you. For all of this. For believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Thank you for letting me. For trusting me with your dreams. He kissed her forehead. Now sleep. You've got a long shift tomorrow and you need rest. Will you stay? Always. 4 weeks before the clinic's scheduled opening, Elias invited Nora to a business dinner. Nothing fancy, he promised. Just a few colleagues. I want them to meet you. Nora should have known better. Elias's definition of nothing fancy was a private dining room at one of Seattle's most exclusive restaurants. She wore her best dress, a deep green number she'd splurged on with her first paycheck from her new part-time clinic director role, but still felt underdressed the moment she walked in. The room was filled with people who belonged in magazines. Men in tailored suits, women in designer dresses that probably cost more than Nora's monthly rent used to. Everyone held wine glasses and made conversation that sounded effortless and elegant. Elias appeared at her elbow immediately, his hand finding the small of her back. You look beautiful, he murmured. Breathe. These are just people. Rich people. People with money. There's a difference. Come on, I'll introduce you. They made the rounds. Elias introduced her as Nora Caldwell, founder and director of Caldwell Community Health, always emphasizing her role and achievements. Most people were polite, asking thoughtful questions about the clinic's mission and model. But Nora noticed the looks. The subtle once-overs from women who clearly wondered what someone like her was doing with someone like Elias. The raised eyebrows when she mentioned being a nurse. The slight shift in tone when people realized she wasn't from their world. Halfway through cocktails, a woman approached. She was stunning, tall, black, with perfect posture and a bright red dress that screamed confidence and money. Her natural hair was styled in an elegant updo, and she wore diamonds that caught the light with every movement. Elias, she said warmly, kissing both his cheeks. It's been too long. Patricia. Good to see you. Elias's tone was polite but noticeably cooler. This is Nora Caldwell. Nora Patricia Renee. We've worked on a few deals together. Charmed. Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes as she shook Nora's hand. So you're the one everyone's talking about. I am? Of course. Elias Montgomery has been conspicuously off the market for months. People notice these things. Patricia sipped her wine, studying Nora. A nurse, I heard? How refreshing. I'm also founding a community health clinic, Nora said, keeping her voice even. Yes, I heard about that too. Elias's latest charitable endeavor. Very generous of him. The way she said charitable endeavor made it clear she meant something else entirely. Elias's hand tightened on Nora's waist. The clinic is Nora's vision and hard work. I'm just helping fund it. Of course. Patricia's smile sharpened. Still, it must be nice having access to that kind of funding. Opens doors that might otherwise remain closed. The implication was clear. Nora felt her face heat, but before she could respond, another guest called Patricia away. Ignore her, Elias said quietly. Patricia's bitter because I turned down her last investment pitch. She takes things personally. Did she just imply I'm with you for your money? Probably. She's good at saying things without actually saying them. Nora bit back the angry words threatening to spill out. I need some air. She escaped to the restaurant's terrace, gulping down the cool evening breeze. Through the glass doors she could see Elias talking to someone else, probably explaining her sudden departure. A few minutes later, Patricia joined her outside. Just what Nora needed. I didn't mean to offend you, Patricia said, though her tone suggested otherwise. I'm just protective of Elias. He's been through a lot with women who saw him as a wallet rather than a person. I'm not one of those women. Of course not. You genuinely care about him. I can see that. Patricia leaned against the railing. But care and compatibility aren't the same thing. Elias comes from a very specific world. Expectations, obligations, a certain way of doing things. It's hard for outsiders to navigate. You think I'm an outsider? I think you're wonderful for him right now. Grounding. Real. But long term? Patricia shrugged elegantly. These differences have a way of becoming problems. Money changes relationships. Creates power imbalances. Makes people wonder who really holds the cards. We've talked about this. We're handling it. Are you? Or are you just grateful enough that you're ignoring the red flags? Patricia's voice softened, becoming almost kind. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to be realistic. Elias needs someone who can stand beside him as an equal. Someone who understands his world, his pressures. Can you honestly say that's you? Before Nora could answer, Elias appeared. Patricia. Leave her alone. We're just talking, Patricia said innocently. You're being deliberately cruel. Go back inside. Patricia raised her hands in surrender. Just trying to look out for you, Elias. But fine. I'll go. She swept back into the restaurant, leaving them alone. What did she say? Elias demanded. The truth probably. That I don't belong in your world. That eventually our differences will become problems. Nora wrapped her arms around herself. She's not entirely wrong. She's entirely wrong. Patricia doesn't know anything about us. But she knows about your world. About the expectations and obligations. About how relationships work when there's this much money involved. Nora. She asked if I could honestly say I'm your equal. I couldn't answer her, Elias. Because the truth is, financially we're not equal. We never will be. You funded my entire clinic. You pay for our dinners. You live in a world where one evening dress costs more than I used to make in a month. Money doesn't determine equality. It's just a resource. Easy to say when you have it. Elias took her hands. Look at me. Patricia is bitter and bored and likes stirring up trouble. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know how strong you are, how hard you've worked, what you've overcome. She sees money as the only measure of worth because that's all she has. But what if she's right? What if I can never really be your equal because of this financial gap? What if people always wonder if I'm with you for the money, and you always wonder if I'd stay without it? I don't wonder that. Not for a second. But other people do. Patricia does. Probably half the people in that room do. I don't care what other people think. You should. Because it affects us. It affects how people see me, how they treat us as a couple. Nora pulled her hands away. I think I need to go home. Nora, please. Don't let Patricia ruin this evening. She didn't ruin it. She just pointed out things I've been trying not to think about. Nora grabbed her purse. I'm not angry at you. I'm just overwhelmed. I need some space to think. Let me drive you. I'll take a cab. You stay. These are your colleagues, your friends. You can't leave your own dinner. I can if you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm confused. There's a difference. Nora kissed his cheek. I'll call you tomorrow. Promise. She left before he could argue, catching a cab back to her apartment. Inside, she found Dante already asleep and Mrs. Chen watching TV in the living room. Home early, Mrs. Chen observed. Everything okay? Fine. Just tired. Nora paid her for babysitting. Thanks for staying late. After Mrs. Chen left, Nora changed into pajamas and lay in bed, staring at her ceiling. Patricia's words played on repeat. Can you honestly say you're his equal? She thought about the dinner, about feeling constantly out of place among people who spoke in acronyms she didn't understand and referenced experiences she'd never had. She thought about the looks, the subtle judgment, the assumption that she must be with Elias for his money. But she also thought about Elias himself. How he looked at her like she was the most interesting person in any room. How he listened when she talked about medical procedures and patient care with the same intensity he gave business deals. How he played chess with Dante and asked thoughtful questions about asthma management and never, not once, made her feel less than him. Her phone buzzed. Elias, I left the dinner. Didn't feel right staying without you. Are you okay? Really? I don't know. Still processing. Can I see you tomorrow? I want to talk about this. Really talk, not just text. Okay. After my shift? Around 3? I'll be there. Nora set her phone down and closed her eyes. Patricia had planted seeds of doubt, but the question was whether those seeds would grow or whether the foundation she and Elias had built was strong enough to withstand external judgment. She fell asleep still wondering. The next day, Nora's shift at the hospital dragged. Every time she checked on a patient, her mind wandered back to Patricia's words, to the looks at that dinner, to the fundamental question of whether she and Elias could really make this work long-term. At 2:30, she changed out of her scrubs and headed home, where Elias was already waiting on her building's front steps. Hey, he said, standing as she approached. You look tired, worried. Thanks for agreeing to talk. Of course. Come up. In her apartment, she made coffee while Elias sat at her small kitchen table, exactly where he'd sat dozens of times before. But today, everything felt heavier, weighted with unspoken doubts. Last night was awful, Elias started. Patricia was completely out of line. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. She said what a lot of people probably think, Nora said, sitting across from him. That I'm with you for your money. That I don't belong in your world. That eventually our differences will tear us apart. Do you believe that? I don't want to. But Elias, she raised valid points. We do come from completely different economic backgrounds. You've never had to worry about money and I've never not worried about it. That creates different perspectives, different values sometimes. Not all that different. We both value family, hard work, helping people. The money stuff is just logistics. It's more than logistics. It's power dynamics. You funded my clinic, which means you have a say in my dream even if you try not to exercise it. You pay for things I can't afford, which makes me feel dependent. And people will always wonder if I'm with you for the wrong reasons. Elias was quiet for a moment. What do you need from me? To feel more equal? I don't know. I've been thinking about that all night and I don't have a good answer. Because asking you to be less generous feels wrong. But accepting your generosity makes me uncomfortable. It's this impossible position where there's no right answer. Then maybe we stop trying to find the right answer and just accept that it's complicated. That we'll figure it out as we go. But what if? Nora's phone rang, interrupting her thought. She glanced at the screen, Dante's school. Her stomach dropped. Hello. Ms. Caldwell, this is Principal Davis at Roosevelt Middle School. Dante's having an asthma attack. We've administered his rescue inhaler, but he's not responding well. The ambulance is on the way. Everything else disappeared. I'm coming. Tell him I'm coming. She was already moving, grabbing her purse, her keys. Elias was right behind her. What happened? Dante. Asthma attack. School. Hospital. The words came out choppy, her training at war with her panic. I'm driving. Come on. They made it to the school in 10 minutes that felt like hours. The ambulance was already loading Dante, who was struggling to breathe, his lips tinged blue. He saw Nora and reached for her, panicked. I'm here, baby. I'm here. You're going to be okay. Nora climbed into the ambulance, her hand finding his. Just breathe. Slow and steady. I've got you. Riding with? The paramedic asked. Yes. Elias appeared at the ambulance door. I'll follow. Which hospital? Seattle General. Please, Elias, call his doctor. Dr. Ramon. Tell her what's happening. On it. Go. Take care of him. The ambulance ride was a blur of vitals and interventions, and Dante's frightened eyes locked on Nora's face. She held his hand and talked to him steadily, using her nurse voice, her calm voice, even though inside she was screaming. At the hospital, they rushed Dante to the ER, a team already waiting. Nora watched them work, her brother disappearing behind a curtain, and felt everything inside her crystallize into a single sharp point of terror. A hand touched her shoulder. Elias. He'd beaten them here somehow. They'll take care of him, he said. He's in good hands. He was fine this morning. Totally fine. How does this happen so fast? Asthma. You know how unpredictable it can be. I should have noticed something. Should have made him take his preventive inhaler more consistently. Should have. Stop. You're an excellent sister. This isn't your fault. They waited. Nora paced. Elias sat. A nurse came out to update them. Dante was stable but struggling. They were administering steroids, albuterol, considering more aggressive interventions. Can I see him? Nora asked. Soon. Let us get him more stable first. More waiting. More pacing. Elias made phone calls. Mrs. Chin, Dr. Rahman, Bethany. He brought Nora coffee she didn't drink and held her hand when she let him. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only 45 minutes, a doctor emerged. Not just any doctor, Dr. Rahman herself. Nora. How's my favorite nurse holding up? How is he? Stable. Better. The attack was severe but we've got it under control. He's on oxygen, steroids, continuous monitoring. We'll keep him overnight, probably longer. Dr. Rahman squeezed Nora's arm. But he's going to be fine. Kids are resilient. Can I see him now? Of course. He's asking for you. Dante was propped up in bed, an oxygen mask covering his face, for lines trailing from both arms. But his eyes were clear, no longer panicked. When he saw Nora, he pulled down the mask slightly. I'm sorry, he rasped. Sorry? Dante, you have nothing to be sorry for. Made you worried. Made Elias leave work. Caused problems. You didn't cause anything. Asthma happened. That's all. Nora sat on the edge of his bed, smoothing his hair back. How are you feeling? Like I ran a marathon while breathing through a straw. He coughed, wincing. Is Elias here? He's in the waiting room. Want to see him? Yeah. Nora stepped out and found Elias exactly where she'd left him, head in his hands, looking exhausted. He wants to see you, she said softly. Elias's head snapped up. He's okay. He's going to be fine. Come on. In the room, Elias approached the bed carefully. Hey buddy. You gave us a scare. Sorry? Asthma's inconvenient. Dante's attempted humor was undermined by another cough. Can you stay? Both of you? Of course, Nora said immediately. I'm not going anywhere, Elias added. They settled in for a long night. Nora pulled a chair up to Dante's bed, holding his hand. Elias sat nearby, ready to fetch whatever they needed. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, adjusting medications. Dr. Rahman stopped by twice to assess progress. Around midnight, Dante finally fell into real sleep, his breathing easier, less labored. Nora stayed in her chair, watching his chest rise and fall, counting breaths like she'd done 1,000 times since becoming his guardian. Elias brought her a blanket, draping it over her shoulders. You should rest. Can't. Need to watch him. The monitors will alert if anything changes. The nurses are checking every hour. You need sleep too. What if something happens and I'm asleep? What if he needs me and I'm not paying attention? Nora. Elias knelt beside her chair. You can't watch him every second. You'll make yourself sick. And Dante needs you healthy, not exhausted. I know. Her voice broke. He's all I have, Elias. If something happened to him, I don't know what I'd do. Nothing's going to happen. He's stable. He's going to be fine. You don't know that. Asthma can turn on a dime. People die from this. Kids die from this. But Dante isn't going to. He's getting excellent care. He's young and otherwise healthy. His oxygen levels are improving. Elias took her hands. I know you're scared. But spiraling won't help him. You know that. Nora let out a shaky breath. I hate this. I hate feeling helpless. I'm a nurse. I should be able to fix this. You can't fix everything. Sometimes all you can do is be present and let other people help. The words hit differently this time in this context. Letting other people help. Not trying to handle everything alone. Accepting that she couldn't control every outcome. I'm sorry about yesterday, she said abruptly. About letting Patricia get in my head. About questioning us. Don't apologize. She said things designed to make you doubt. But I shouldn't have. Because when Dante was in that ambulance when I was terrified out of my mind, you were there. No hesitation. Just there. Driving. Making calls. Holding my hand. Being exactly what I needed. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You didn't have to do any of that. But you did. Because you care. Not because of money or obligation. Just because you care. I love you, Elias said simply. You and Dante both. This is where I want to be. This is who I want to be for you. Even when it's scary and messy and involves hospital waiting rooms? Especially then. That's real life, Nora. Not fancy dinners or business meetings. This being here for the people you love when things fall apart. She leaned forward and kissed him, soft and grateful. I love you too. I'm sorry I forgot that for a minute. You didn't forget. You just got overwhelmed. It happens. He pulled her closer. We're going to be okay. All three of us. They stayed like that, Nora in her chair, Elias kneeling beside her, both of them watching Dante sleep. Around 3 in the morning, a nurse convinced Nora to at least recline the chair, promising to wake her if anything changed. When Nora woke at dawn, Elias was asleep in the other chair, his jacket draped over her as an extra blanket. Dante was still sleeping, his breathing steady and unlabored. The monitors showed good numbers, stable vitals. Dr. Rahman appeared for morning rounds. There's my patient. How's he doing? Better, I think, Nora said. Much better. I'm actually impressed with his recovery speed. We'll keep him another day for observation, but I think we can transition to oral steroids this afternoon. Thank God. He's a tough kid. Reminds me of someone I know. Dr. Rahman smiled at Nora. Get yourself some real breakfast. Dante will be fine for an hour. Nora woke Elias and they went to the hospital cafeteria, both needing coffee and food. Over toast and scrambled eggs, Nora felt something shift and settle in her chest. Thank you, she said. For everything. For being here. For not leaving. I wasn't going to leave. I know. That's what I'm thanking you for. She reached across the table to take his hand. Patricia was wrong. About all of it. Money doesn't make us unequal. It's just a tool. What matters is how we treat each other, how we show up, how we handle the hard stuff. And you've shown me over and over that you show up. Not because of obligation or guilt or anything else. Just because you choose to. I'll always choose to. Every time. Good. Because I'm choosing you too. All the complicated, messy parts of this. I'm choosing us. They went back to Dante's room where he was awake and demanding breakfast. About time, he said, pulling down his oxygen mask. I'm starving. The patient speaks, Nora teased, relief making her giddy. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck. But alive. So there's that. He looked between them. You guys okay? You both look exhausted. We're fine. Worried about you. Well, stop worrying. Dr. Rahman says I'm tough. Like someone I know. He grinned at Nora, then turned to Elias. Thanks for staying. You didn't have to, but it meant a lot. Nowhere else I'd rather be, Elias said, and Nora knew he meant it. 2 weeks after Dante's hospitalization, Nora stood outside the clinic for the final walkthrough before opening day. The renovations were complete. The sign above the door read Caldwell Community Health, in bold letters. Through the windows she could see the waiting room furniture, the reception desk, the hallway leading to examination rooms. It was real. After months of planning and work and doubt, it was actually real. You ready? Elias asked beside her. Terrified. But yes. They walked through together, Nora noting every detail. The walls painted in calming blues and greens. The children's play area in one corner. The multilingual health education posters. The examination rooms stocked with equipment. The small lab where they could run basic tests. It's perfect, she breathed. It's yours. Elias handed her an envelope. One more thing before we open tomorrow. Inside was a single key and a document. Nora scanned the paperwork, her eyes widening. You bought the building? Technically the nonprofit owns it. But yes, I bought it and transferred ownership to Caldwell Community Health. You'll never have to worry about rent increases or leases or landlords deciding to sell. This is your space permanently. Elias, that's. She couldn't find words big enough. That's too much. It's an investment in stability. So you can focus on running the clinic, not worrying about real estate. He smiled. Also, the building has 2 apartments upstairs. They're being renovated now. I thought maybe one could be converted to additional office space and the other? Well, I thought maybe you and Dante might like to live closer to the clinic. Better space than your current apartment. But that's totally up to you. No pressure. Nora looked at him, this man who kept finding new ways to show he believed in her, and felt her heart swell. Can I see the apartments? They went upstairs. The first apartment was spacious, bright, with 3 bedrooms and a modern kitchen. The second was smaller but still nice, perfect for conversion to offices or meeting space. Dante would love having his own room, Nora said, walking through the larger apartment. And the kitchen. I could actually cook here. Really cook. There's a school 3 blocks away. Highly rated. Good science program. Elias leaned against the kitchen counter. But again, no pressure. This is just an option. When did you plan all this? I've been working on it for a few weeks. Wanted to surprise you. He looked suddenly uncertain. Is it too much? I can back off if this feels like overstepping. Nora crossed to him, cupping his face in her hands. It's not too much. It's perfect. You're perfect. How did I get so lucky? I'm the lucky one. I get to watch you build something incredible. I get to be part of your life, your vision, your family. He kissed her softly. So what do you think? Want to move in? Yes. Absolutely yes. They spent the rest of the afternoon making plans. The movers would come next week. Dante could start at the new school after spring break. Nora would be able to walk downstairs to work, cutting out her commute entirely. That evening they picked up Dante from Mrs. Chen's and drove him to see the clinic and apartment. This is ours? Dante asked, walking through the apartment with wide eyes. Like actually ours? Actually ours, Nora confirmed. What do you think? I think it's amazing. I get my own room? And there's a park across the street? And did you see the kitchen? He turned to Elias. You did all this? Your sister did the hard work. I just helped with logistics. That's not true, Nora protested. You made this possible. We made it possible. Together. Elias ruffled Dante's hair. Think you'll like living here? Are you kidding? This is the coolest thing ever. Dante hugged him impulsively. Thank you. Really. Thank you. Over Dante's head, Elias met Nora's eyes, his expression soft with emotion. This was what family looked like, she realized. Not just biology or obligation but choice. Choosing to show up, to help, to build something together. The clinic's grand opening was scheduled for Saturday. They'd planned a community celebration, free health screenings, food trucks, live music. By Friday night, Nora was a bundle of nerves. What if nobody comes? She asked Elias as they did final preparations. They'll come. What if we're not ready? What if I've forgotten something important? You've triple-checked everything. You're as ready as you'll ever be. What if? Nora. He took her shoulders gently. Breathe. You've got this. Tomorrow is going to be amazing. Saturday dawned clear and bright. By 10 in the morning there was already a line outside the clinic. Families from the neighborhood curious about the new resource. Elderly residents needing blood pressure checks. Parents wanting to establish care for their kids. Nora worked steadily, seeing patient after patient, answering questions, giving mini health lectures. The bilingual staff she'd hired helped translate, bridged cultural gaps, made everyone feel welcome. Around noon, Bethany showed up with Dante, who'd insisted on being there. Look at you, Bethany said, hugging Nora. Running your own clinic. I'm so proud I could burst. I couldn't have done it without Elias. Or you. Or, Nora's voice caught. Thank you. For everything. That's what friends do. We show up. Bethany squeezed her hand. Now get back to work. You've got patients waiting. By the time the grand opening wrapped up at 6, they'd seen over 100 people. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. People were grateful for the sliding scale fees, the language access, the convenient location, the respectful, competent care. Elias found Nora in one of the exam rooms, sitting on the table, exhausted but glowing. You did it, he said. You actually did it. We did it. This was teamwork. This was your vision. I just wrote checks. He sat beside her. How does it feel? Like everything I've worked toward finally made sense. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Thank you. For believing in this. For believing in me. Always. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the cleanup happening in the waiting room, the sound of people congratulating the staff, the music still playing outside. Elias. Nora said quietly. Yeah. I want Dante to call you something. Not Mr. Montgomery. Something warmer. Is that okay? What did you have in mind? I thought maybe he could ask you what you're comfortable with. If you want to be Elias, that's fine. But if you want something more familial, that's okay too. Elias pulled back to look at her. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm saying you're part of our family now. However you want to define that, whatever title you're comfortable with, we're yours and you're ours. She took his hand. Is that okay? More than okay. He kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise. More than okay. Later, at dinner with Dante, Elias brought it up. So your sister and I were talking, he started, about what you should call me. I want you to know I'm not trying to replace your dad. But I also want you to know I'm here. For you. For your sister. For the long haul. Dante considered this seriously. What if I just call you Elias? That works, right? That works perfectly. But like, if we're filling out school forms or whatever, can I put you down as emergency contact? Family? I'd be honored. Cool. Dante went back to his pizza. Also, can you help me with my science project? It's about gravitational pull and Nora's terrible at physics. Hey, Nora protested, laughing. I'm not terrible. You're terrible. She's definitely terrible, Elias agreed, grinning. Watching them banter, Nora felt something settle deep in her chest. Happiness. Security. Home. Not the apartment, though that was wonderful. But this, the three of them together building something that looked like family, felt like love and promised to last. 6 months after the clinic opened, Nora stood in front of the mirror in her new bedroom, adjusting her dress. The clinic's first half-year review had shown incredible success. Over 1,000 patients served, partnerships established with local hospitals, grant funding secured for the next 3 years. Tonight was the celebration dinner. Just her, Elias, and Dante, marking this milestone privately before the public event next week. You look pretty, Dante said from her doorway. He'd grown in the past months, shooting up several inches, his face losing some of its childhood roundness. Thanks, kiddo. You clean up pretty well yourself. He was wearing a button-down shirt Elias had bought him, looking more teenager than little boy. Are we celebrating just the clinic or something else too? Nora turned to look at him. What do you mean? Come on. I'm 12, not blind. Elias has been nervous all week. You keep smiling at nothing. Something's happening. He grinned. I'm guessing he's going to propose. Dante Caldwell, don't say things like that. You'll jinx it. So I'm right? I don't know. Maybe. We haven't talked about it explicitly. But she'd noticed the same things Dante had. Elias's distraction, the mysterious phone calls, the way he kept touching his jacket pocket. Would you say yes? If he asked. Nora sat on her bed, patting the space beside her. Dante joined her. How would you feel about that? About Elias becoming more permanently part of our family? I think it's cool. He's good to you. Good to us. He helps with my homework and doesn't treat my asthma like I'm made of glass. Dante picked at the bedspread. I know he's not Dad. But he's... Elias. That's pretty great too. Yeah, it really is. They headed downstairs where Elias was waiting, wearing a dark blue suit that made his eyes stand out. He smiled when he saw them, that warm, genuine smile Nora had fallen in love with. Ready? He asked. Ready. They went back to Lumiere, the restaurant where this had all started. The same hostess from that first night looked surprised to see Nora, then delighted. Miss Caldwell, how wonderful to see you again. Your table is ready. It was the same booth, the same corner partially hidden by the decorative screen. Nora felt a wave of nostalgia thinking about that first awkward dinner, both of them pretending to be people they weren't. I can't believe it's been almost a year, she said as they settled in. Best year of my life, Elias said, taking her hand across the table. Even with all the chaos? The medical bills, the clinic stress, the business dinners gone wrong? Especially because of all that. That's real life. That's what makes it matter. They ordered, falling into easy conversation. Dante entertained them with stories from his new school, his new friends, the science club he'd joined. Elias shared updates about his business, asking Dante questions about physics that led to an animated discussion about black holes. Over dessert, Elias cleared his throat. So, he said, his voice slightly unsteady, I have something I want to say. To both of you. Dante kicked Nora under the table. She kicked him back. This past year has been transformative for me. Before I met you, Nora, I was going through the motions. Successful but empty. I had money and career achievements, but I was lonely. Disconnected. He squeezed her hand. Then I walked into this restaurant by accident, met someone I wasn't supposed to meet, and everything changed. Elias, Nora started, but he shook his head gently. Let me finish. You showed me what it means to have purpose beyond profit. You introduced me to real community, real need, real love. You let me be part of your family, let me help build something meaningful. Let me see what life could look like when you stop protecting yourself and start being vulnerable. He turned to Dante. And you, buddy, you taught me that family isn't just biology. It's showing up. It's chess games and science projects and emergency room visits. It's choosing each other every day. Elias reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. But then he pulled out another box. Nora's eyes widened as he opened both. One contained a ring, beautiful and simple, with a single diamond. The other contained a watch, sleek and sophisticated. Nora Caldwell, Elias said, his voice thick with emotion. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your partner, your teammate, your family for the rest of our lives? Yes, Nora whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, then turned to Dante. And Dante, I know I'm not your dad. I'm not trying to replace him. But I'd like to be your family, officially and permanently. If you're okay with that. He opened the watch box. This is my grandfather's watch. It's been in my family for generations, passed down to people we consider family. I'd like you to have it. Not now because you're 12 and this thing is worth too much to wear to middle school. But someday. Because you're family to me. Important. Permanent. Dante stared at the watch, then at Elias, his eyes suspiciously wet. That's really cool, he said, his voice cracking. Can I hug you? Get over here. They had an awkward cross-table hug, both of them trying not to cry and failing. Nora watched them, her heart so full it hurt. When they pulled apart, Dante wiped his eyes. Does this mean I have to call you Dad now? Only if you want to. Elias works fine. Or anything else you're comfortable with. I'll think about it. Dante grinned. But probably Elias. That's who you are. The waiter appeared with champagne and sparkling cider, clearly in on the plan. They toasted to new beginnings, to family, to love found in unexpected places. When did you plan all this? Nora asked, admiring her ring. About 3 months ago. I wanted to wait until the clinic was stable, until we'd weathered some challenges together, until I was absolutely certain. And now you're certain? Completely. You're it for me, Nora. You and Dante. This weird, wonderful, complicated family we've built. I don't want anything else. They stayed at the restaurant until closing, celebrating and planning. A summer wedding, they decided. Small. Intimate. Just the people who mattered most. Weeks turned into months. The clinic continued to thrive. Dante excelled at his new school. Wedding plans progressed. Elias's business remained successful, but he'd shifted his focus, spending more time on meaningful investments and less on pure profit. Patricia Renee sent a card congratulating them on their engagement, with a note that read, I was wrong about you both. Wishing you every happiness. Nora framed it, a reminder that even critics could change their minds, that love and commitment could win over cynicism. The wedding took place in August in the park across from the clinic. Simple decorations, folding chairs, a string quartet. Bethany was maid of honor. Dante walked Nora down the aisle, both of them crying before they'd taken 10 steps. Elias stood at the altar in a simple gray suit, tears streaming down his face as he watched his family approach. The ceremony was short, heartfelt. They exchanged traditional vows with a few personal additions. I promise to let you help me, Nora added, and to help you in return. To build with you, not despite you. To trust your love even when my independence screams to handle everything alone. I promise to see you, Elias said, really see you not as someone who needs saving but as someone who saves herself and graciously lets me be part of the story. To respect your strength even as I offer support. To love you and Dante with everything I have. When the officiant pronounced them married, their community erupted in cheers. Patients from the clinic. Neighbors from their building. Business colleagues and friends. Everyone who'd been part of this unlikely love story. The reception was held in the clinic's parking lot, transformed with lights and tables and food from every neighborhood restaurant. It was loud, joyful, real. Exactly what Nora had wanted. During their first dance, Elias pulled her close. Happy? He asked. Deliriously. You. More than I ever thought possible. He kissed her forehead. Thank you for taking a chance on me. For letting me into your life. Thank you for being worth the risk. They danced under the stars, surrounded by love and laughter, while Dante conducted the string quartet with increasingly dramatic gestures that had everyone laughing. Later, as the party wound down, Nora found herself on the clinic's front steps with Elias, watching their guests mingle. Can you believe this? She asked. A year ago I was standing outside Lumiere, terrified, pretending to be someone I wasn't. Now I'm married to you, running my dream clinic, raising Dante in a beautiful apartment. It's like someone else's life. It's your life. You earned every bit of it. We earned it. Together. Together, he agreed. Always together. Dante joined them on the steps, loosening his tie. Best party ever. Can we do this every year? That's called an anniversary party, Elias said, laughing. And yes, we can absolutely do this every year. Cool. Also, Mrs. Chen says I can sleep over at her place tonight so you guys can have alone time, which is gross but also kind of nice of her. Very nice of her, Nora agreed, trying not to laugh. So yeah, I'm gonna go pack a bag. You two just do whatever married people do. But not in front of me. Ever. He disappeared inside, leaving them alone on the steps. We did it, Nora said softly. We actually built something real out of that accidental date. Best accident of my life. Mine too. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the last guests leave, the caterers pack up, the lights twinkle in the darkness. This was their life now, messy, beautiful, full of love and purpose and possibility. Nora leaned her head on Elias's shoulder, feeling his arm come around her, and thought about how far they'd come. From strangers at the wrong table to partners building something meaningful. From isolation to family. From fear to hope. I love you, she said. I love you too. Always. Above them, the clinic sign glowed softly, Caldwell Community Health. Below it, in smaller letters, a new addition, supported by the Montgomery Foundation. Their names together. Their dreams intertwined. Their future beginning. And it was absolutely perfect.